My name is Sophia Connors. I'm 28 years old, and I've always felt like an outsider in my own family. I grew up in Denver, the daughter of a successful businessman and a mother who was always the perfect hostess. On the outside, our family was the epitome of the American dream, wealthy, respected, and seemingly flawless. But none of that was ever for me. My older sister, Rachel, took all the glory. She was the golden child, the lawyer, the one who made all the right choices. Meanwhile, I'm the one who failed to measure up, an ambitious marketing specialist working long hours just to feel like I'm contributing something worthwhile. I was always the disappointment, the one who didn't fit into their carefully crafted picture of success. I thought I had made peace with that, until Christmas morning when I woke up alone in an empty house. My family was gone. A note on the table read, "We needed a break from you. Don't call." I stared at the note, disbelief making my fingers tremble. Was this some kind of cruel joke? I glanced around the house. No sign of my parents. No sound. Silence, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I walked to the living room, half expecting to find them sitting there, laughing at me for being the last one to catch on. But no, empty. Not a single trace of them. My mother's gingerbread cookies weren't cooling on the counter. The tree wasn't lit, and the holiday cheer, so carefully curated every year, was nowhere to be found. Everything was dead. Even the air felt cold. It's a feeling I've had before, but never like this. The weight of it hit harder now. I was the one left behind. Again, I called my father's cell first, straight to voicemail, then my mother's. Same thing. My younger brother, Ben? Not a word. Rachel? Nothing either. A pit started to grow in my stomach, the silence thickening with every unanswered ring. I sat down at the kitchen table, the note still in my hands, the ink a smear against my shaking palms. Don't call. It echoed in my mind, each syllable cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. What had I done to deserve this? The feeling of abandonment was suffocating. They had planned this. They needed a break from me. The words felt like a slap. I had always tried to fit in, tried to make them proud, but nothing was ever enough. I looked back down at the note and, for the first time, noticed the faint crease along the side. It wasn't just paper. There was something pressed against it. Something hidden. I unfolded the paper carefully, revealing a small, folded sheet of legal-sized parchment. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the familiar signature at the bottom. My father's. But it wasn't just any signature. It was attached to something far more disturbing. A real estate contract. The house, our home, had been sold. Sold. Without my knowledge. Without my consent. My breath caught in my throat. The words on the page blurred. It wasn't just that they'd left. They had sold everything without a word to me, without a second thought. I ran to my father's office, my feet pounding against the wooden floor, the cold creeping in behind me. The door was unlocked. Inside, I rushed to his desk, pulling open the drawers. The faint smell of cigar smoke lingered in the air, his signature scent. I shuffled through the papers, ignoring the sting in my chest. Then I found it, another contract, signed and dated by both my parents, with my name attached under a line that I didn't remember ever signing. The world tilted beneath me. The words on the paper burned into my mind. Transfer of ownership. The house was no longer ours. Something was wrong. I could feel it deep in my bones. No one was this careless, not with something this important. But as I stared at the signatures, I realized what had happened. This wasn't just a bad decision. It was a deliberate move. They had planned this. They'd betrayed me, and they didn't even have the decency to tell me why. Then the phone buzzed in my pocket. I snatched it up, my pulse racing. A message. It was from Rachel. "You weren't supposed to find out this way, Sophia. But it's too late now. There's nothing left for you here. Don't follow us." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I froze, staring at the screen. The door creaked open behind me. I turned, and there, standing in the doorway, was Chase. His face was cold, unreadable. "You're too late," he said, his voice low and distant. I felt the blood drain from my face. His eyes weren't apologetic. They were something worse, empty. "What?" I started, but my words caught in my throat. "You've crossed a line you can't come back from," he added, stepping into the room. I stumbled backward, my legs giving out beneath me. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. But it was. And I hadn't even seen it coming. I stood there in the silence, Chase's words lingering like smoke in the air. "You've crossed a line you can't come back from." I didn't know what he meant, but a sickening feeling settled in my gut. I couldn't look at him. Not like this. Not with the betrayal so evident in his eyes. His face, usually warm and familiar, was now cold and distant, like a stranger's. "Chase," my voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" He didn't answer at first. Instead, he stepped closer, his gaze never leaving mine. My pulse quickened as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The walls felt like they were closing in. "Your family has made choices," he said, his voice quiet but sharp. "Choices that affect all of us." I recoiled slightly, my hand instinctively reaching for the back of the chair. His words didn't make sense. Choices that affect all of us. I had spent years trying to fit into their mold, to earn their approval, and now this? They had sold the house, forged my signature, and I wasn't even invited to the conversation. "You knew," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "You knew, and you didn't tell me." He let out a soft sigh. "I didn't want to involve you. Not in this." He took a step back, his posture stiffening. "You're in deeper than you think, Sophia." I stared at him, trying to make sense of it all. Deeper than I think? What the hell did that mean? In what exactly? My voice was barely a whisper, filled with both fear and rage. His lips curled into a smirk. "Your family's dealings. The house was never just a house. It was a pawn. You've been used." His eyes flicked to the side, like he was considering something dangerous. I felt the air thickening around us, and for the first time, I realized how carefully calculated everything had been. "Dealing with who?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "The people who really own everything." He gestured vaguely, as if it didn't matter anymore. "You've been a tool in their game, Sophia. I never wanted this for you. But you didn't ask the right questions." My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But something kept me rooted to the spot. This wasn't just about me. This was bigger. It had always been bigger. I shot him a glare, my anger finally breaking through. "So what? You used me? The whole time?" Chase's face softened slightly, but his next words cut through the air like glass. "I never meant for it to go this far. But your family's debts were already too much. And I couldn't just sit back anymore." His voice dropped to a low murmur. "You're not just part of this, Sophia. You are the reason it all happened." I took a step back, the words hitting me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't just caught in the middle. I was the catalyst for it all. I was the reason everything had spiraled out of control. My signature, my involvement, it was what made it all fall into place for them. And now, it was too late to take any of it back. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed sharply, cutting through the thick silence between us. I grabbed it without thinking, my hand shaking. It was a message from Rachel. Just one line. "You weren't supposed to find out this way, Sophia. But it's too late now. There's nothing left for you here. Don't follow us." I froze. Nothing left for me here? It felt like the world had dropped out from under me. I couldn't breathe. Chase was watching me carefully, but his expression had turned hard again, unreadable. "You should have never gone looking for answers," he said quietly. "You wouldn't have wanted to know." I dropped the phone onto the table, unable to look at the screen anymore. "How could you?" The words escaped me before I could stop them. "How could you do this?" Chase didn't answer. His eyes were empty now, distant. It felt like he was a ghost. Someone I used to know, but wasn't allowed to anymore. You were never supposed to find out, he repeated, almost to himself. He turned, slowly walking toward the door. I didn't want it to end this way. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I stood there, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My legs felt like they were made of stone. I couldn't think straight. What had just happened? What did I do now? I moved to the desk, desperate to make sense of the situation. I pulled out the papers I'd found earlier, the ones with my forged signature. I spread them across the table, my hands trembling as I scanned the text. The more I read, the more it became clear. This wasn't just about the house. It was about power. Someone wanted control, and they'd used me to get it. But who? And why me? I pushed the papers aside, my mind racing. There was no time to sit and wonder. I needed answers, and the only way to get them was to go straight to the source. I grabbed my coat and bolted out the door, ignoring the fear crawling up my spine. As I reached my car, I felt it, the unmistakable sensation of eyes on me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't alone. Someone was watching. I jumped into the car, slamming the door behind me. My hands were still shaking as I started the engine, pulling out of the driveway. I didn't know who was behind this, but I wasn't going to stop until I found out. The road stretched ahead, but something wasn't right. I felt it in my gut. The game was just beginning, and I had no idea who was going to win. The wheels of my car screeched as I turned onto Elm Street, the cold wind rushing through the cracked window. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going, but I had to move, had to do something, anything, to get out of that empty house. I could still feel the weight of Chase's words echoing in my head. You've crossed a line you can't come back from. I slammed my hand against the steering wheel, willing my thoughts to stop spiraling. I had to think. I had to get answers. First, the house had been sold. That much was clear. But to whom? And why? What were my parents involved in that I didn't know? And why hadn't anyone told me? As I pulled up to the parking garage, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I glanced around, empty, but the sensation lingered. Focus, I muttered to myself. I needed to be rational. I needed answers. Rachel had to know something. I tried calling her again. No answer. My heart thudded in my chest. I didn't have time for this. I needed leverage, and I needed it now. I parked the car, grabbed my bag, and stepped out. The garage was dark, the air heavy with the scent of stale gasoline and old concrete. It wasn't the kind of place you lingered in, but I had no choice. The elevators groaned as I hit the button for the top floor where Rachel's office was. She worked late often, but I wasn't sure if I could trust her anymore. Everything had changed. As the elevator hummed upward, I tried to remember the last time we had a real conversation. It felt like a lifetime ago. Rachel and I had always been close, at least I thought we were. But the way she had left me out of everything, the way she had manipulated the situation to fit her own narrative, it all felt like a betrayal. The doors opened with a soft ding. Her office was at the end of the hall. The door cracked just enough for me to hear muffled voices inside. I froze. She wasn't alone. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath. I couldn't make out the words, but the voices sounded tense, urgent. One of them was Rachel's, the other unfamiliar. Then I heard a name. Archer. My heart skipped. James Archer. I knew that name. He was the one my father had mentioned a few times over the years, the one who always seemed to be lurking in the background of their business deals. And yet, I had no idea what kind of role he played in their lives, or how deep he was involved. I edged closer to the door, careful not to make a sound. Rachel's voice cut through the low hum of conversation. You don't understand, she said, her tone sharp. We can't let her find out. I clenched my fists. Her? Who was she talking about? Me. I know, the second voice replied, calm and cold. But it's too late. She's already sniffing around. She knows about the house. I felt a chill run down my spine. They knew. They knew I was digging. That meant I wasn't safe. Not anymore. "I'll handle it," Rachel said, her voice suddenly steely. "It's time we deal with this. If Sophia gets in the way, she'll have to be removed." I swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. Removed? What did that mean? I wasn't sure I wanted to know. I stumbled backward, barely keeping my balance. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that they were discussing me like this, or the realization that they were capable of doing anything to protect their secrets. I had to get out of there. I had to warn myself. But I couldn't just leave. I had to know more. I needed to understand exactly what they were planning, what they had already done. I looked down the hallway. No one. I bolted for the stairs, the metallic clang of my footsteps echoing against the cold walls. Every step felt like a race against time. I reached the stairwell door, my hand trembling as I pushed it open. But just as I stepped inside, I heard the unmistakable sound of a footstep behind me, a sharp intake of breath. I froze, looking for something. I spun around to see Chase, standing at the top of the stairs, his expression unreadable, his eyes cold. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, trying to sound confident even though my heart was threatening to burst from my chest. Chase took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving mine. "I told you, Sophia," he said, his voice low and measured. "You've crossed a line." The air between us thickened, the tension almost unbearable. Every muscle in my body tensed, ready to spring into action. I wasn't backing down this time. Not after everything. "Stop playing games, Chase," I snapped. "What's going on? What's your connection to Archer? Why are you involved with my family?" His eyes flickered, just for a second, a crack in his calm facade. But it was enough. That was all I needed to see. "Archer is just a part of it, Sophia," he said, his voice now colder, harder. "This goes way beyond you or me. This is about something much bigger. Something your family should have told you about a long time ago." My blood ran cold. I could feel the walls closing in. Everything was spinning out of control, and I was right in the center of it all. "Then tell me," I demanded, my voice shaking but fierce. "What do I need to know?" Chase didn't respond. Instead, he took a step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "You're not ready for the truth, but you will be soon enough." I backed away, my body trembling. There was something in his eyes, a darkness that made me question everything I thought I knew. "Don't get in my way, Sophia," he warned, his voice low, almost threatening. I turned and ran, not knowing where I was going, but needing to escape. I needed time. I needed answers. But I was more certain than ever I was in way over my head, and the game was just beginning. I didn't have time to process the weight of what Chase had said. "You've crossed a line you can't come back from." I couldn't stop thinking about his warning. It felt like a threat more than a statement, but I was too angry to care. The world had been lying to me for years, and now it was collapsing. I had to act fast. I had to get to the truth before it all slipped further out of my reach. The car screeched as I hit the brakes, pulling into the dimly lit parking garage beneath the office building. The garage smelled of oil and wet concrete, the kind of smell that clung to your skin and made you feel like you were in a place you shouldn't be. But there was no turning back now. I had to confront Rachel, had to find out exactly how deep her involvement went with Archer and everything else. The elevator ride felt endless. Every floor felt like it dragged me closer to something I wasn't ready to face, but I didn't have a choice. As the elevator reached the top floor, I paused, steadying myself before stepping out. Rachel's office was just down the hall. The familiar scent of her perfume lingered in the air as I approached her door, but something about the silence felt off. I could hear voices from inside. 2 voices. One I recognized instantly, Rachel's, sharp and commanding. The other, deep and familiar, but not a voice I ever wanted to hear again. James Archer. The name cut through me like a knife. He had been lurking in the background of our lives for as long as I could remember. a shadow behind my father's business dealings, his presence always just out of reach, just barely noticeable. I had no idea what kind of grip he had on my family, but now it was becoming clearer by the second. I stood outside her office, frozen. I couldn't hear everything, but the tension in their voices made my stomach twist. Something was wrong, far worse than I had imagined. I didn't know how long I could keep it from her. Rachel's voice was low, strained. She's too curious, too nosy. She's going to find out eventually. Then deal with her. Archer's voice was colder than I expected. You have to handle this. If she finds out about the house and the deal, it's over for all of us. The words hit me like a punch. The deal? What deal? What had they done? My mind raced, but I couldn't bring myself to move. She can't know about Archer, Rachel added, her voice almost pleading. You know what he'll do. My heart pounded. My sister, the one person I trusted more than anyone else, was in deep with him. Whatever this was, it was bigger than I could handle. Suddenly I felt it, someone watching me. My breath caught. I couldn't move, couldn't think straight. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. My instincts kicked in, I had to leave. I couldn't stay here and listen to more. Not now. I spun around, only to come face to face with Chase. His expression was unreadable, but his presence hit me like a ton of bricks. The anger from earlier was still raw in my chest, but now it was replaced with something worse. Fear. You shouldn't have come here, Chase said quietly, his voice low, like he was trying to keep someone from hearing. But I could hear the edge in it. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes flicked nervously to the door of Rachel's office. I need answers, I said, my voice shaking despite myself. I need to know everything. You won't like what you hear, he said. His face hardened, and he took a step closer, lowering his voice. Rachel and Archer. They're not the only ones involved. There's more to this than just a house, Sophia. You're in the middle of something dangerous. The words hit me like a shot. Dangerous. That's what they were all trying to protect, weren't they? Power, wealth, control. But why me? Why had I been dragged into this? Chase looked over his shoulder, as though making sure no one was watching. You need to get out of here, he said urgently. Now. It's not safe for you anymore. What the hell are you talking about? I demanded. Why didn't you tell me? Why have you been lying to me? You're asking the wrong questions. He glanced toward Rachel's office again, his eyes narrowing. You don't know who you're dealing with. You think Archer's the problem? He's just the beginning. I felt my stomach churn. What did he mean? I couldn't process it all. My mind was spinning, questions swirling faster than I could ask them. Chase took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I've done things I regret, but protecting you wasn't one of them. He gave me a pointed look. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. I took a step back, trying to steady my racing heart. What does that mean? I asked, my voice trembling with both fear and anger. Before Chase could respond, there was a loud click from Rachel's office door. My blood ran cold. I didn't need to hear the footsteps behind me to know what was coming. Someone was walking toward us. I turned to face the hallway, and there she was. Rachel, stepping into the hallway with that damn cold, calculated smile. She was too good at pretending. Too good at hiding what lay beneath. You shouldn't have come, Sophia, she said, her voice smooth, almost too calm. But it's too late to turn back now. My breath caught. The walls were closing in. There was no way out. Chase moved closer, his hand slipping into his jacket pocket. I couldn't tell what he was reaching for, but his body language screamed that something was about to happen. Something big. We're not done, Rachel continued, stepping forward, her eyes flickering with something dangerous. This is just the beginning. Suddenly I felt the air shift. Something was coming. Something I wasn't ready for. The room was suffocating. Every breath I took felt thick, as if the very air in my lungs was poisoned with the weight of all the lies. I could hear Rachel's heels clicking against the polished floor as she stepped closer, but I didn't move. I couldn't. The truth was staring me in the face, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. Rachel stood a few feet away, her arms folded, that same detached expression she always wore when she was hiding something. I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I just stared at her, waiting. "You're in way over your head," Rachel said, her voice colder than usual. "You don't know what you're asking for. You don't understand what's going on." Her eyes flickered to Chase, who was standing by the door, his face unreadable. "And neither does he." I felt my pulse race. I wasn't in control anymore, but I needed to be. The fear creeping through my veins was suffocating, but I fought to keep my voice steady. "What's going on, Rachel? What deal have you made with Archer? With them?" Rachel's eyes narrowed. She took a step forward, her voice lowering to a whisper. "I didn't want this. I didn't want you involved. But now it's too late. Archer's been pushing us for months. You think the house was the problem? The house was just the beginning." I wanted to shout, to demand more, but the words escaped me. The beginning? What was she talking about? She took another step closer, her gaze cold and hard. "You're being used, Sophia. All of us are." Her voice wavered for a second, but then she regained control. "But you're the one who has to fix it." I couldn't process what she was saying. I wanted to lash out, to tell her how much she had destroyed everything. But before I could respond, Chase interrupted, his voice sharp. "Rachel, stop." She didn't even flinch. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he continued, his voice tinged with urgency. "This is bigger than you think. Bigger than anything we've ever dealt with." The air felt heavy, like the walls were closing in. Every word from Chase and Rachel felt like it was pulling me deeper into a darkness I couldn't escape. I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for what was happening. "What exactly do you mean?" I forced out, my chest tight with panic. Chase moved closer, his eyes locked on mine. "It's not just about money or power. It's about control. They have us by the throat, and now they're coming for you, Sophia." I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. Who's coming for me? "The people behind Archer. They've been watching you for months," Rachel replied, her voice deadpan. "This whole thing, your family situation, it's all been a game. And you're the pawn." I wanted to scream, to throw something at her, to make her stop talking. But I knew she was telling the truth. The walls were closing in, and I was trapped in the middle of a game I didn't even know was being played. "I should have never let you get involved," Rachel muttered, almost to herself. "But now there's no turning back." I barely heard her. My mind was racing. Pawn? Game? What the hell did she mean? Chase's voice brought me back to the present. "You're the key, Sophia. You've always been the key. They've been setting this up for years, and now they need you to finish it." The words hit me like a blow to the stomach. "Finish what?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Rachel stepped forward again, her tone softer now, but her words still cutting. "They've been manipulating all of us. The house, the signatures, your father's debts. All of it was just a way to get you involved. They needed you to sign the papers, to secure their hold." I took a step back, my head spinning. My father, his debts. Had it all been a setup? Had I been a pawn in their game without even knowing? "You're telling me, my father—" I couldn't finish the sentence. It felt too surreal. "Your father wasn't in control," Rachel cut in. "Archer was. Your father thought he was protecting us, but Archer had already planned everything." The room felt like it was closing in around me. I took another step back, my chest tightening. "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because we couldn't trust you," Rachel replied coldly. "Not until we knew where your loyalty lay." The words hit like a slap to the face. I could feel the anger rising in my chest, but I couldn't let it take over. Not yet. I needed answers. You used me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but the words landed like a bomb. You manipulated me from the start. Rachel's eyes narrowed, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of something. Regret, maybe. Or was it fear? You're right, she said, her voice eerily calm. But it's done now. There's no going back. Chase stepped closer, his hand gripping my arm gently. Sophia, listen to me. If you want out of this, you need to stay ahead of them. They're always watching, always waiting. I jerked my arm away. Who are they, Chase? Who the hell is behind this? But before he could answer, a sharp knock echoed through the door. We all froze. Chase's face went pale. It's time, he muttered under his breath. They're here. Suddenly, it felt like the walls were closing in again. The door opened, and in walked a man I didn't recognize. His eyes were cold, calculating. He stepped into the room, his gaze sweeping over us like we were nothing more than pieces on a chessboard. Ms. Connors, he said, his voice smooth and low. We've been expecting you. I took a step back, my mind reeling. This was it. Everything I had uncovered, everything I had been fighting for, it was all coming to a head, and I had no idea how to survive it. The world felt distorted. Everything I had known, everything I had built my life around, seemed to be slipping through my fingers like sand. The sudden appearance of James Archer at the door had been the final straw. His cold, calculating eyes had bored into mine as if I was already a part of his twisted game. A game I wasn't sure I could win. Ms. Connors, he said, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent of menace. I'm glad we could finally meet. It's time we finish this. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The walls of the office felt too close, the shadows lurking in every corner. I wasn't the person I used to be, the one who let life unfold without questioning. Now, I was standing in the middle of a storm I hadn't asked for, but I had no choice but to weather. You've been playing us all, I said, my voice sharper than I felt. This whole thing was a setup. The house, the contracts, everything. He smiled a cold, empty smile. It's not personal, Sophia. It's just business. You see, everything your family has worked for, everything your father built. It's all part of a larger picture. A picture you've always been in, whether you knew it or not. I swallowed, fighting the rising panic. You think you can control me, control everything? My hands are shaking, but I clench them into fists. I'm not a pawn. Not anymore, Archer said, his eyes narrowing. But you were. You've always been. You were just too blind to see it. The words hit like a slap. I had spent years trying to fit in, trying to prove I was worthy. And here it was, the truth. I had been a part of their scheme all along. A pawn. Disposable. But I wasn't willing to let them have the satisfaction of breaking me. You can't control me anymore, I said, each word feeling like a promise. Chase, who had been eerily silent by the door, stepped forward, his hand tight on the handle of the door. This isn't just about you, Sophia, he muttered. It never was. It's about power, the kind of power that money can buy, and the kind you're too naive to understand. I wanted to scream at him, to demand why he had betrayed me, why he had played me for a fool. But I couldn't afford to lose control now, not when everything was on the line. You're right about one thing, I said, my voice cold now, steady. This has never been just about me. But I'm done playing the game. Archer's smile faltered for a moment, just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. I could see the shift in him, the fear. He wasn't used to being challenged. You think you can walk away from this? Archer's tone turned hard, almost threatening. You think this ends here? You're already too deep. I nodded slowly. I know I am, but I've learned one thing tonight. When people think they can control you, when they think they own you, that's when they make their biggest mistake. I looked at Chase. I'm done. I'm done with you. Done with all of you. His face twisted, anger flashing behind his eyes. You don't understand, Sophia. You have no idea how deep this runs. The power I could give you. I don't want your power, I interrupted, my voice cutting through the tension. I want my life back. The door slammed open behind me, and I spun around. Rachel stood there, her face a mask of fury. What the hell are you doing, Sophia? She hissed. You're making a mistake you can't take back. I took a step toward her, my hands clenched. I'm done with you, Rachel. You don't get to manipulate me anymore. Not this time. She stepped back, eyes flicking between me and Archer, as if she was calculating her next move. You don't know what you're up against, she warned. You have no idea what you're really fighting for. I met her eyes, my resolve hardening. I'm fighting for my freedom, for my future, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it back. There was a long silence. The tension in the room was unbearable. I could feel the weight of the decisions I had just made, but I didn't regret them. For the first time in my life, I was taking control. For the first time, I wasn't running away from the fight. Suddenly, the door to the office swung open, and a man stepped in. His face was unfamiliar, but his cold, calculating stare made my stomach drop. He wore a suit that screamed power, and his presence was commanding. Ms. Connors, he said smoothly, I believe it's time we end this. I didn't flinch. You don't scare me. He chuckled, but it wasn't friendly. No, I suppose not. But you're already in too deep. Your family is already in too deep. A chill ran through me. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was bigger than that, and I was at the center of it all. But I was done being their pawn. If I had to fight, I would. And if I had to lose everything to win, so be it. The man took a step forward, his eyes scanning me. You really think you can walk away from this, Sophia? You think you can just leave? I didn't say anything. The sound of my breath was the only noise in the room. But then, something clicked in my mind. A moment of clarity. I could leave. I could walk away. I could take back control. No, I said, my voice steady, confident. I'm not walking away. This is over. Before anyone could move, I took a step toward the door. Rachel made a move to stop me, but I was already through it, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap of cold water. It wasn't over. Not yet, but it would be soon. I would make sure of it. As I walked into the night, the weight of the past few days pressing down on me, I finally understood something. You don't have to be perfect to be free. You just have to be willing to fight for it. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer a pawn. I was the player, and this game was mine to win.